Welcome back. You're watching Hard Copy, coming to you live from our studios in Abuja. Please follow the conversation using our Twitter handle at CTV Hard Copy, or send us an email on hardcopy@channelstv.com. Our Nigeria Statistician General, Dr. Yemi Kale, is still with us. Just before we went on that break, you spoke about how a former minister preferred to go with some statistics which looked better in terms of talking about the poverty index. Now, what's your relationship with international bodies, especially non-governmental or developmental agencies who also do statistics as well?
Well, there's no, let me just correct a wrong impression. People like in Nigeria trust foreign statistics quoted by the World Bank, the IMF, and so. But the reality is the World Bank, the IMF, the UNDP do not generate statistics on Nigeria in Washington. All the data that they are quoting comes from is data that is produced by our staff. I cannot,
not their own independent research.
No, they can't do any independent research in Washington. They have to come and conduct field work here. So we partner with the poverty studies, for example, are a collaboration with the World Bank. We are currently conducting a multiple indicator cluster survey, which is a study on women and children. It's with the UNICEF. So we have all this collaboration. We are doing one with the UNODC that is on corruption perception and so on. So they actually are a lot, because they are a lot more in tune with the importance of data. So we actually interact more with them than even our own government in Nigeria.
So will you say that you're not happy with how the data that you've released so far has been used? Has it been put to any use at all?
It's increasing. There was a time when everything was done without data. People just made up their mind and made up numbers that suited them. In fact, in the past, what you have is somebody would decide a particular policy or direction, and then will make up data to justify that direction afterwards, just to explain it. Now it is changing. The MBS is in attendance at the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank. In fact, the governor would ask me to give almost a 30-minute overview to help their deliberation, what's the numbers saying, what the economy is saying. And then we don't have any voting power, but we give them an overview of what's happening. We're a member of the economic management team chaired by the vice president. Every quarter, in fact, on Monday, I'm presenting the new every quarter I present an overview of the economy, I explain it at the committee that the vice president, or the acting president rather, set up to reduce food prices. MBS is a part of that. We are giving them all the prices, we're explaining what is causing prices to rise all over. So there's a lot more appreciation of the use of data.
Who uses it more, government or the private sector?
I think for now, I think the private sector, based on the demand that we get. Last year, we got over 2 million downloads of reports on our website. And then when we look at most of that was coming from the private sector, the development agencies, and less from government. I think government is just beginning to catch up. And that's more at the federal level. At the state level, very few states are really in tune with the importance of data. There are a few of them, Lagos, Kaduna, and so on, but majority of them still take decisions without even looking at the numbers.
How do you sync with the states? Because some people quarrel with the statistics that the states release, and they say that sometimes they doubt the capacity of the states to be able to carry out the kind of independent research that they need to carry out.
The National Bureau of Statistics, the Apex Statistical Agency, we are the coordinator of the entire statistical system, which includes the states and the authoritative source. And we are supposed to determine methodologies for statistical computation for everybody. I can state categorically that majority of the capacity of statistics in the states is extremely poor. Even in many ministries, departments, agencies at the federal level is extremely poor. What you have is statistics is a department you send people they are not happy with. So when a staff a director is upset or a permanent secretary is upset with his staff, he sends them. It's like punishment, because that's somewhere that it's kind of like Siberia. It should be somewhere you send people. So you find the situation where people working in statistics departments at states and in federal MDAs are maybe have degrees in secretarial studies or one language. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing to go and do in university, but not for statistics.
For the states where that is beginning to change, for instance, Lagos and Kaduna, which you just mentioned, have there been times when you have had to quarrel with the data that they have released?
We quarrel with data every time. And we refuse to endorse them. And the law says once MBS does not endorse any data that is used, it cannot be used for official statistics. I've gone to Federal Executive Council meetings, or I'm not going. I'll be in my office, and then the National Planning Minister in the past will send me a text saying the minister of whatever ministry is presenting some information at FEC with some data in it. Are you aware of the data he used? If I reply and say I don't know what he's talking about, he raises up his hand in FEC and says, I just got off with the Statistician General. He says this data. He doesn't know anything about it. And then the president stops the presentation and says, sends him back to MBS.
No, but if you have a scenario where a lot of state governments now are doing their own business summits, they are looking for investors, and if they're churning out their own data that, for instance, you do not agree with, data that makes them look good, how do you get that across to the investors without exactly making Nigeria look bad?
Well, first of all, we reach out to the state government. We've done a few of that and say, look, the information you sent out is completely wrong. And we show them the evidence, and we don't want to embarrass your state. So we would advise that you send your staff over to MBS so we can reconcile this figure. And we did it privately, so as not to embarrass the state.
You've had occasions like that?
We've had occasions like that, yes.
Now let's talk about projections that that have been made so far about Nigeria exiting the recession this year. Definitely, government is doing some work in that regard. But do you feel under any pressure to show that the results that government is looking for are beginning to become evident?
Well, the only pressure that I'm under is the one I put on myself. I don't enjoy being the bearer of bad news. In fact, people now joke about it, where they say, when I announce that, okay, this particular data is going to come out on this date, people reply and say, oh, he has come again with this is bad figures. Even the acting president jokes about it at the EMT. When he sees on the agenda presentation by the Statistician General on the economy, he would joke and say, oh, Yemi, you have come to put us in a bad mood again. So he jokes about it, yes, but I don't want to be the one announcing negative things about my country. I would like to see more positive numbers. So I'm under pressure to, so when the numbers come, I give my staff a lot of work because I go through every single line, hoping that there's a mistake somewhere that will push the number, that will make the numbers positive. But if I don't find any mistakes, that's it. It has to be published as it is.
Does it affect the funding that you get, for instance?
It's difficult to say. There are sometimes we don't get, the statistics office is extremely poorly funded. Even today, it's improved, but it's poorly funded. When I got into office, we were getting 120 million to produce statistics for Nigeria. The equivalent in South Africa, statistical office, 40 billion. So there's a difference between countries that take statistics seriously and where now it's closer to 1 billion, it's improved, but it's still significantly less than what we need to do. Now, sometimes we don't get funding on time. Now, I cannot tell you whether the reason I'm not getting the funding is because don't give these people money before they go and say bad things about us, or there's just no money. What I hear officially is there's not enough resources to go around. We're having an issue, so that's why you haven't gotten your money. I remember telling a former finance minister that when she said, we don't have money, things are tight, that's why you cannot give you the money. I remember telling her that, look, that's the more reason why you should give me money, because I'm the one that will tell you whether you should put money in education, more money in education than health, more money in health than agriculture, because when you have the data, you know what is priority. So I'm not the person you should cut off when you have no funding. I'm actually the person you should give money so I can help you spend it properly.
Well, Dr. Yemi Kale, Statistician General of the Federation, thank you for coming on Hard Copy.
Thank you once again for having me.
Well, that's the program tonight. Do send your tweets and comments to @CTV Hardcopy on Twitter or hardcopy@channelstv.com. Thank you for watching tonight. I'm Maokwe Ogun. See you next week.